This is Brad A. Milford with the Unlimited Business Wisdom Podcast, where business owners share their wisdom. It's short, to the point, to respect people's time. And because we know transforming possibility happens super fast and it leads to lasting results. So enough of that. Let's get to it. Question number one. In a few sentences, tell me who you are and what you do.
So I am what's called a serial entrepreneur. I've been in business since I was 8 years old, in and out of business since I was 8 years old. Obviously, there was some school in there. But most recent incarnation, I'm involved in healthcare with the sole intention of completely reinventing the American healthcare system.
It's kind of a dumpster fire out there.
Kind of a dumpster fire. And we're starting to see that now. I mean, with what's going on in the news and some of the more controversial issues, absolutely. That's part of the reason why I decided to actually focus on healthcare. Is I realized there was this whole world that most people wouldn't experience. I experienced it because I cared for first my stepdad and then my mom. We both in hospital and in the home, and just going through the guts of that machine and literally getting chewed up and spit out. When I saw that there are 61 million baby boomers that are going to be over 70 after 2030, I really just couldn't stand by and let other people's parents go through what mine did.
It's such a noble mission, and I appreciate that. I couldn't resist the dumpster fire thing. So we're going to talk about your website later, but when I was breezing through your website, that just caught my attention and it made me laugh. And it tells me a little bit about who you are and how you serve and how you share. And so I dig it.
Yeah, thank you.
Question number two. What's the best thing about being in business, especially as a serial entrepreneur?
It's got to be seeing something created. Too few, I think, people get to experience that in a visceral way. And so a business lets you see that expression come out into the world, while at the same time impacting other people's lives. So as a leader, you impact people's lives with hopefully you're selling good products, so those impact people's lives. And then obviously the people that you work with. And so there's really relatively little other than maybe teaching that you can have as tangible and an impact on your local community. And now, of course, with the internet, the entire globe as you can in business. So that's why I did it. I mean, at my heart, I'm a coach, I'm a trainer. I started coaching in high school. I was teaching people martial arts. I trained people in the military. My biggest company so far was an e-learning company. And I actually was an instructor in that. And I trained literally thousands of people, probably close to 7,000 people over the lifespan of that company. And it's just an expression of who I am.
Love it. Love it. And little subtle humor too about, we hope you have good products.
One would hope.
7,000 people. You learn a little bit walking through that space, don't you?
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah. And I was training people to trade the markets, right? So I had to. The other aspect of it is being a coach or being a teacher forces you to learn your material very intimately. Walter Williams recently passed away. He's a world-renowned economist, a hero of mine. He actually said that he didn't really learn economics until he started teaching it. And I can say, starting with martial arts, I didn't really understand, how to break people in half until I started teaching other people how to break other people in half. But whatever it is that I do, I tend to approach it with the teaching in mind. So really, if I could offer someone a key to not only learning quickly, but learning deeply, is to go into it thinking about teaching someone else, visualize teaching somebody else with even what you're learning real time. So most of the time when I'm learning something, I'm actually in the zone so much that I'm off in another world in my mind, like either in front of a classroom or one-to-one teaching it to somebody. It is phenomenally effective.
I love to hear you say that. So it goes back to Dale Carnegie said it, how to win friends and influence people. Like if you want to learn something, teach it.
Yep.
The beauty that is what you said though. It's the depth. So the knowledge, and maybe you can even teach it like a 3-year-old, right? Like Einstein said, right, to someone. But you learn at a I mean, at much more depth when you
Right.
teach it over and over and over again, and it evolves. I love what you just said, and it's a valuable nugget. And so I really wanted to highlight and showcase what you were sharing there. Fantastic. Question number 3. This is one of my favorites. We hear from other business owners, they're getting so much business that sometimes the chaos causes overwhelm. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, they may not, because I'm going to give them an answer that doesn't involve technological wizardry or, buying the latest app or iPad. It's systems and processes. It's understanding what is the step-by-step things that you have to do to get the result. I mean, we forget in business that we're here to produce results for people. And it's really the secret to a business being off track, or the secret to solving a business that's off track, is throwing everything out, getting down to one customer and getting the result for that customer, figuring out what you did to get that result, and then go do it on somebody else and somebody else and somebody else. And when you do that, you will be shocked at how fast you could have a company that's bleeding. The worst case that I ever had was about $4 million a month. And I turned them around in 60 days, and they thought it was wizardry, but it was literally that I just focused on one of their clients, figured out all the steps it took to get that sale, first of all, and then the other stuff that the company wanted to do. And then we just went out and found like larger and larger pools of people that would respond to that same process. Obviously, I'm describing marketing, right? I wasn't describing it in marketing terms, but that's the way to quite literally break apart a marketing campaign so that you can repeat it, so that you can scale it out, or more likely that you'll have to, I call it clones. Like you have a clone of one particular part of a marketing campaign, another part of a marketing campaign. And then you repeat the process on customer service, right? So obviously somebody coming into your company is one process. Somebody who's new in your company is another process. You should have some sort of welcome, sort of onboarding thing. And then think about not your company lifestyle, like what you want to put on somebody, but what is their lifestyle and life cycle, right? So if a woman is coming to, let's say, a bridal shop, obviously there's the pre-wedding, then there's the wedding. Well, what about after the wedding? So bridal shops that are complaining about not enough revenue, well, all these people got married. I mean, arguably until there's a divorce or a death, they're still a customer. So what their likes and desires are. I mean, my goodness, you're with that woman and her entire family for like 3 weeks. You should be gathering information. Well, how do you do that, Maceo? You get somebody to start taking notes, to ask specific questions, record that information, and then act on it. That's an example of a system. So the system would be pre-wedding, wedding, post-wedding. Then you've got kids, you've got college, you've got retirement. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, a bridal shop should be getting essentially affiliate income from CPAs, financial planners, retirement, IRA people. There's no reason why you can't go out and talk to those people and then find out what your business partners, what kind of information do they want to get, and produce a newsletter and have parties, invite women to come over, have an event where a CPA is there talking. How do you plan for college if you have a child on the way? If it's a first child, what kind of planning do you need? Why isn't the wedding shop selling that woman, the kind of equipment that she wants? So when you start thinking in terms of systems and processes, all of this that I just dumped on you really becomes second nature, because you're thinking about the steps. That's important. But more importantly than that is that those steps have to produce a reliable result. And the third part, that when I was getting taught this process, is that result happens about 80% of the time. So here's the magic in that. Most entrepreneurs fail to grow because they mistakenly believe that they need to duplicate themselves. You should be ecstatic if you get a 60% hit rate on your process, and then you just train to get it to about 80%. You will be able to scale to the moon with 60%, let alone 80%. So really the key to unlocking growth is that overall system and methodology.
I revel in your wizardry. I love that answer. It was very thorough, and anybody listening or watching, I really encourage you to scroll back and listen to what he just dropped. There's a lot of wisdom in there. The infrastructure, the duplicatable, the repeatable, the systems, the processes, and he actually laid it out for you step by step. It's pretty darn brilliant. So
that's the result of thinking like a teacher for now, whatever it is. I mean, I'll date myself, 30 years or something like that. Actually, no, if I go back to teaching martial arts, it's crying out loud, like 40 years. I'm getting old.
Fantastic.
That's great. I actually know something finally.
I love it. We get to the point where we know we don't know that much.
Well, that too. I know something about a very small sliver of the world. I'll say that.
Indeed. No, there was great. I appreciate you sharing that because as a systems person, I appreciate the depth of knowledge there and the step by step. And it. I'm going to throw some more humor. And a lot of businesses, look, I drop it down real. A lot of businesses out there are like dumpster fires. And all they need is just some infrastructure and systems. So I really appreciate what you said. And I totally want to highlight what you said so that people hear it and listen to it and take it in. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Appreciate that.
Question number 4. What other successful business owners, successful like yourself, of course, should be on the Unlimited Wisdom podcast?
You got to talk to Jason Stapleton. I met him. He might hate it that I say this because I don't think I've ever told him, but I got into his business on an experiment, and I'm a crazy enough scientist that I'll spend a lot of my own money to test ideas. And what I was trying to figure out is if I could get into somebody else's business and affect change, whether they wanted it or not. So just kind of testing some theories that I had. But Jason and his business partner had a phenomenal business at the time. I was helping him with some of their coaching and system and processes around sales and how to duplicate themselves and all of that. But Jason has since left that business. He's got a podcast and a consultancy out of California now, but just a brilliant thinker, former Marine. I don't hold that against him being a former Army guy myself. But
I'm Navy. You both are off the mark.
Well, hey, look, I mean, I can neither fit my head into the jar or I didn't look that great in bell bottom. So it was the Army for me. But Jason is a phenomenal guy. He's a brilliant entrepreneur.
I love that. And I'm familiar with him, but I don't know him yet. And so thank you for the recommendation. I'll reach out.
Absolutely. For sure.
Let's get to the crux of this. Let's get to some wisdom, Maceo. What piece of wisdom would you share with other business owners? You have a lot of experience, so drop it down for me.
So I'll jump off from where I ended with the systems and processes. So the resistance that I hear from entrepreneurs, especially if they're a fellow creative like myself, is that, that's constrictive, or, I don't want to fit everything into a box. And so I would encourage you to think about it like a Leonardo da Vinci or a Michelangelo. Those artists spent sometimes years drawing a single form or a hand or a finger. Why did they do that? Because they were going to draw all of their stuff the same way every time. They weren't doing that because they were going to draw the same finger every time, or that they wanted to draw it the same way every time. They wanted to practice it over and over so that they had the form. And that way, when somebody looked at a hand, they would see a hand. Now, somebody might say, well, what about impressionism? And yeah, let's not go too far afield because we're talking about business. What you want is the same or near the same result. So let's go back to, even a wedding planner or a party planner. You want them to be happy, right? So you want the bride to feel wonderful in her dress. If somebody has a party, you want them to feel important. You want their guests to feel important. And that you could say is unbounded. Like there are too many ways to do that. I would say, actually, they're not. There are very few things that people need in order to feel those ways. And if you design your business around those things, you have unlimited freedom inside of those boundaries. And really, nobody wants really unlimited anything. Our brains shut down. I mean, think about walking into, if you can remember, Starbucks for the first time, and you look up at that menu, and there's 97 different things. You're literally dumbfounded. And they ask you, hey, what do you want? You're so dumbfounded, you can't even speak. Now, if all they had was coffee, black with milk, right? It'd be like, pick one. It'd be a lot easier. So the same goes in your marketing and your business. So it's not just that you're making it simpler on yourself or that you're constraining yourself. What you're actually trying to do is to figure out how to present your value proposition to as many ideal customers as possible in the simplest way so that they can make a decision to give you money. The way to do that is to put the same thing on yourself. And when you start to constrain yourself that way, you'll find your sales go up, your satisfaction goes up, the needle moves in every single department that you needed to move, because you as the entrepreneur are doing the same thing to yourself. Right? So how do you decide whether to offer your bride to be flowers or coffee, or show her the pink dress, or the white dress? How do you choose out of all those unlimited things? Well, if you have an unlimited number of choices, you're really not going to know. You're going to do it haphazardly. It's never going to be the same. So you're never going to know how to repeat it. All of business comes down to repeating customer satisfaction one person at a time until you get filthy, stinking rich and retire.
Yes, I'm laughing. He throws the humor at the end. I love it. I love your humor. I love your analogies too, and I totally relate to what you're saying. I've consulted with a lot of restaurants, right? And so if you create a different plate every single time, you're in trouble as a restaurant. Or if you have a menu that has a gazillion things. I don't order fast food because I don't understand fast food restaurants. I don't know what those things. I have people tell me I'm crazy because I don't, but I just don't. Like when I go to the menu, I'm like, what? Right. I don't even know what to order. So I just don't.
Yeah, right.
Simplicity is sustainable, right? And that's what I hear you saying. I love that. So
let's talk about restaurants, man. I've got a soft spot for restaurants. And by the way, all the stuff that I mentioned for the bridal company, restaurateurs, you can do the same thing, because the people that are coming into your restaurant are getting married, they're retiring, they need a CPA, they've got businesses. You need to know who those people are so that you can make yourself more valuable to them. Or maybe it could be somebody needs a space to present. Offer your business, offer to cater it at a reduced rate. If they're a great customer, throw in free stuff. I mean, those same options are available to you. But what you just said about the plate, I mean, think about a restaurant. If you're a restaurateur, do you want your plates looking completely different? Do you want like a different amount of fries, a different amount of potatoes? Do you want your steaks all like the different shapes or misshapen, cooked? No, you want this. You want it to go out the same quality every time. Why? Because when that plate goes down in front of the customer, you want them not to have to make this wild decision like, is this a Picasso painting or is this a steak dinner? You want them to sit down and immediately have their mouth watering because it looks like a steak. It looks like potatoes. Obviously, I'm hungry a little bit. You want it to look like it's supposed to look, because that's going to bring them back, right? When they're deciding where to go, it's generally, if you look at the data, it's generally not this experimentation and people are trying to get this new stuff. They want good food and reliably, which unfortunately, talk about fast food, is why that tends to be popular. It's cheap food that's basically the same experience every time. That's what the data says. So you don't have to be in the restaurant world to duplicate that. You can take that principle, same experience every time, and put it inside of your business, no matter what it is. CPA, you could be a coffee shop, it doesn't matter. But more importantly for restaurants, that's going to be the deciding factor.
That's what I really love about the analogies that you used, because every analogy that you used can be superimposed on another business. Mm-hmm. And that's the brilliance in that. And so we just did it with restaurants. It's all about you. And I love that you brought in the data. So I love restaurants because you can say, look, it's the same amount of fries, right? They can be measured, right? They can be measured. Right. It's the data. I want to flip this now. Speakers, trainers, coaches, entrepreneurs of all sorts, it's no different. Nope. The analogies, there's brilliance in the analogy here. And so I really want to highlight what you were sharing.
Well, I'll give one for the speakers. I'll give one for the speakers. So what most speakers miss, especially if you're a corporate speaker, is the opportunity to enrich the lives of the people that are there. So you're in an intimate setting. You need to be asking everybody questions about their outcomes. Are they trying to get a promotion? Do you secretly know somebody's looking for another job? Do you secretly know that your manager's got some health problems? And then send stuff to them. And this is magic. Send it to them in the mail. Don't send them an email. Send it to them in the mail. Use a handwritten note. I actually learned that by my stepdad. He was a real estate agent for 35 years, and he would sit there every week with a box of envelopes and a bunch of different kind of news clippings. And every time he saw something that one of his clients had an affinity for, he would rip it out, put it in an envelope. Hey, John was thinking about you. Hope you enjoy Don. That's it. No expectation. There you go. Absolutely. Thank yous. Oh my goodness. I could be here for,
I just want to let you know I'm with you. It's brilliant.
Thank you cards. Nobody sends thank you cards anymore, except obviously you and me. But the magic of getting something physical in the mail, you've got taste, smell, touch, you've got everything. Putting little candies in it, perfume. One of my secrets is actually chocolate, because chocolate and cinnamon last through the mail as far as scent. So getting something chocolate scented or cinnamon scented, you will start to associate positive emotions with you. And the secret to any sort of cold or warm relationship expanding into a hot relationship, because remember, the idea here is to get a repeatable process so you retire filthy rich, is when people experience you, there's a burst of positive emotion in their brain. When you can engineer that, your results, especially as a speaker, will go through the roof.
Love it. There's no way I could love it more. And you and I can talk business all day, every day. I just know it. We're going to shift gears for just a moment. And then I want to hear about what you're up to, because you just dropped a lot of value to the audience, but I really want to hear what you're up to because it's pretty fascinating. So let's shift gears. I'd love to hear about the most fun vacation you've ever had. So
the reason why we're laughing is, I made the joke. This was actually the hardest question for me. Because like most type A people, I had to think back to when my last vacation actually was. But it was an all-inclusive resort in Jamaica. And it wasn't the resort. It's that the resort had all these excursions into the local people. And so we spent literally every day with a guide, like in the jungle, basically, and in the mountains, and talking to the people that are native to the country, which I'm forgetting at the moment, but, having them cook for us and, listening to them tell their stories and eating fruit off of the trees. That was so fun because I wasn't a tourist just on the golf course and, putting on 5 pounds at the buffet. I was actually living with people for a short period of time and really getting to experience them as people rather than, as a tourist attraction.
Love it. I love it. That highlights, those are my favorite vacations. The ones I've had is where you get into the culture and you get to know the people. And sometimes they've never been exposed to where you're from and, just all that kind of stuff. It's great. And it also shows me your heart-centeredness. And that's not the first point throughout this conversation. So I really appreciate you. And I want to thank you for just investing the time to share heart-centeredly with the tribe and the audience here.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I also want to hear what you're currently. So, you're a serial entrepreneur. What's your current campaign? What's your initiative right now? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I talked a little about the dumpster fire that's going on in healthcare. 61 million baby boomers are going to be over 70 in 2030, and we've heard about the baby boomers for a long time. And it's like, okay, we're over that. But if we thought that there was going to be a problem in healthcare with the COVID pandemic with say 3 or even 500,000 people in the system, imagine 61 million. And on top of that, the system is designed for chronic care, really, which is actually why it was going to be overloaded with what's called acute care, which was COVID. Acute just means it's happening now. You broke your leg, you got sick, something like that. Well, our baby boomers have 3 to 4 chronic conditions now. When they're 70, they're probably going to have double that, so 6 to 8. So this is long-term stuff. They're going to need more time. They're going to need a doctor that actually understands their condition and isn't just like shoving more prescriptions down their throat. So we are in the process of remaking healthcare from the ground up. We're building a secondary network that will enable people to get hospital quality healthcare in the home. That's our tagline: hospital quality healthcare in the home. So we envision a day where it doesn't matter if you're 8 or 80, unless you break a leg or have a stroke. Everything you need will be in the comfort of your home.
Love that vision. I truly love that vision. So thank you, Maceo, for being on. Thank you for the investment of your time. What's the website or social media, or how can people, when people listen to this or watch it and they say, whoa, it's some thunder. Sorry. And they say, wow, I really want to reach out to that guy. How can they find you?
So there are two ways. I've got my website, maceojordan.com, which is a deliberately awful WordPress blog. That's the way you can get in touch with me directly. If you submit a form on there, it goes right into my email.
Is it a dumpster fire?
It's a deliberate dumpster fire. It's bad. I'm one of these guys that believes that _𝐏𝐫𝐸 and gimmicks actually sell. So that's just me living out my ideals. I also can't bring myself to pay for web work. I have a genetic disposition. The other side is 𝐾𝐞𝐤𝐈𝐧𝐜𝐞𝐚𝐬𝐞. So on the healthcare side, 𝐶ANEXXIA. That's where you can check out what we're doing. We're about to launch a brand new digital offering. COVID, obviously impacted us like all healthcare. So we developed a model to deliver physical therapy in the home. That's my co-founder, Mountain. He's an absolute savant when it comes to physical therapy. And ironically, that's who was blowing up my phone earlier. We're raising some money right now. So we've got a couple of VCs that are looking to give us a few $million. We got to decide on which one to sign. But that'll be a digital platform to get physical therapy in the home, along with regenerative medicine for the knee and hip for people that are more advanced. That's kind of our first phase of our healthcare operations.
Absolutely love it. Noble mission and very needed. So thank you for all of the service and everything that you dropped today, as well as that.
Yeah, glad to be here, Brad. Thank you.
My pleasure. This is Brad A. Milford with the Unlimited Business Wisdom Podcast, where we talk about all kinds of stuff with business owners making 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's not all about the money. It's also about sharing their wisdom globally to create impact. Thanks for joining us.